Hi, I'm Shan Wu. What's the most disgraceful Supreme Court decision you can think of? Maybe the Dobbs decision, the one that took away a woman's right to choose? Or maybe it's the infamous Dred Scott decision, the one that ruled that enslaved people were not citizens and could not sue in federal court? Or is it the Korematsu decision, the World War II decision where the Supreme Court said it was perfectly constitutional to put American citizens in concentration camps with the power of an executive order? No due process, just round them up, put them in. Sound familiar? Just because those citizens had Japanese ancestry. Well, I've got a new contender for you to consider. Also, please consider subscribing to us, because we are here to give you an independent analysis. We're not beholden to anyone. We're not afraid to give you opinions as well as accurate reporting and analysis. But importantly, we know which is which. So give a subscription, hit that subscribe button, and join us on this journey together. I'm Shan Wu, and I'm doing an under color of law analysis of the new ban that the Supreme Court has just upheld on transgender troops. So the new contender for a disgrace is United States versus Schilling, where the Supreme Court upheld Trump's latest ban on transgender troops in the military. It's disgraceful for many reasons, right? I mean, the underlying executive order itself is just pure hate. Call it prejudice, bias, unconstitutional. Those are all true, but it's hate. It gives a chance to people like Pete Hegsth, the Secretary of the Defense, the opportunity to vent his hatred under the cover of his office. Take a listen to him.
We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind. No more pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that shit.
Now that's conduct unbecoming of any leader, much less the Secretary of Defense. It's not even the cursing that he's doing so he can sound like a tough guy. It's the sheer hatred. He's so happy to get to display his actual feelings about things. And they are dressed up, no pun intended, hidden behind his office, hidden behind claiming that Trump's powers as commander-in-chief, that's the basis also in Trump 1, his first administration, that they banned transgender troops, that the power of the commander-in-chief to lead the military gives him the power to do anything he wants with regard to the military. Now, the first time around, the ban was a little bit different. That one was not directed at those who are already enlisted. It really ended up being sort of a restriction on who could enlist. People who are already serving were protected. President Biden reversed that disgusting order and effectively saying, don't discriminate against people. Trump's second term in office now, he puts it right back in place, but it's even worse. They now want to not just ban the enlistment, but they want to kick out troops that are transgender troops, take away their medical treatment. And of course it's unconstitutional. It's basically saying that, oh, if Trump is commander-in-chief, he can do anything he wants, like, let's say, get rid of all the minorities in the military, because he thinks that might hurt the ability, the efficiency of the military. That would be unconstitutional. Oh, actually, they are doing that already, aren't they? It's cloaked as getting rid of, quote, the DEI hires. What lies at the bottom of this kind of lawless, unrestrained bias? It's playing to hate and fear in the MAGA base, right? Wanting to claim that Trump and his supporters, he's saying to them, we're cleaning up your country. Let's make you really fearful about things. And then we're going to say, we're going to take care of these fears. We're going to solve the problems for you. Like the fear of non-existent armies of marauding migrants, violent criminals that don't exist, that they're actually an army being sent here, let's say by Venezuela. Non-existent fact. U.S. intelligence says doesn't happen. Non-existent armies of men masquerading as women in sports. Simply not there. The language of this new executive order actually dares to say that being transgender in the military, it's not honorable. It somehow dishonors the military. Isn't that ridiculous? Does it get any more blatant than that? And this supposed huge problem for the military. What are the actual numbers? I mean, according to a New York Times report, we're talking about maybe 4,000-ish people out of 2 million in the military. Comes out to around 2%, but honestly, the 2% even gives it more weight than it deserves. It's a tiny amount of people who are, of course, exceptionally vulnerable, who are quite brave to come out and to say who they actually are. And the supposed problem for the military, it's just a bunch of nonsense, because look at the plaintiff in the case. As Slate did a great piece of reporting on this, the person in this case was the plaintiff, Emily Schilling, the named plaintiff, transgender woman who has served as a naval aviator for 19 years, flown more than 60 combat missions, logged 1,750 flight hours in Navy jets, earned 3 air medals. The Navy, according to reporting, has spent $20 million training her, and soon she'll be forced out of service entirely. For what? For nothing. All that money wasted, all her service wasted, her reputation wasted. If the Supreme Court was going to condone this kind of discrimination, as the writer puts it in Slate, the least it could have done was explain why. Look, there are many possible reasons the court went this way. The conservatives may be really waiting to get to a case where they can stop nationwide injunctions, because this was originally a nationwide injunction, preliminary injunction. They may want to shore up the president's power. They're maybe afraid, John Roberts is probably really afraid, of going against a core power that he defined, which is Commander-in-Chief's core power. Liberals maybe don't want to waste their powder on this topic when they're feeling overwhelmed by the incredible number of emergency applications now pending before the court. Professor Steve Vladeck points out that, the quote from his article, we'll put it up for you, the upshot is a Supreme Court that has had to deal with more significant emergency applications over the last 6 weeks than during any prior 6-week period. It's just an unbelievable amount of emergency applications being taken up to them by the Trump administrations. And it's not just this limited period with a bunch of stuff. There's no end to it. They just keep going up over and over and over again. These are, as Professor Vladeck points out, these are very time-consuming matters, even when they're denied without any opinion, which we're going to talk about in a second. Just because they're denied without an opinion doesn't mean the justices and their clerks don't have to review all the submissions, have to discuss it, figure out what they're doing. Occasionally you will see an opinion or dissenting opinions. We've seen that recently too. And the fact that it's coming at this pace and the court's deciding it in this manner, that's a big part of what's disgraceful about it. Because it isn't even the fact that this decision sides with Trump. The justices kind of leave themselves an out, right? Because let's take a deep dive for a moment into exactly what this decision is. Because you'll hear it in the main media, oh, they've upheld Trump's ban, they're siding with Trump. Not quite. That is the effect, absolutely. But this was an appeal of a preliminary injunction that struck down the ban. The trial court did that. A lot of fact-finding, a lot of excellent writing and analysis by the trial court. And the trial court concluded, we're going to stop this. We're going to freeze this temporarily while it gets litigated so that the transgender troops can continue to serve. They still have their medical benefits. Instead, what the justices did was they granted an application for a stay of the stay. Okay, so they're freezing the freeze, meaning it goes back to the policy going forward. And so the judges can say, look, we're not really ruling on the merits. We're just dissolving a preliminary injunction here. That's a big part of the disgrace, right? Because this is classic shadow docket. Shadow docket, remember, are cases that don't go through the regular briefing or oral argument process. They typically tend to be emergency applications, and the court's just really giving an order. Usually, it's an order with no reasons, like this one. Sometimes there are dissents. Sometimes there's even small statements or opinions. Here, the dissent, there is a dissent, but the dissent doesn't even give reasons. All they're doing is they're disagreeing with granting the application for a stay, meaning they're disagreeing with staying the stay. That's all. And what that means is the trial court's finding got overturned. And remember, for preliminary injunction, a huge part of why it was granted, why the trial court said freeze, quit this ban, is the irreparable harm factor. You have to show irreparable harm in order to get the preliminary injunction. Very easy to show that harm, right? Troops will be discharged dishonorably. They're putting their benefits at risk, their future reputation, ability to work at risk over basically nothing, just a bunch of crappy political appeal to a MAGA base and appeal to hate. That's irreparable harm to human beings who are serving honorably. What happened to that here? Where is the analysis to explain why there is no irreparable harm? On the other side of it, there is zero irreparable harm to the military, allowing these 4,000 people who are doing a great job, absolutely nothing off with what they're doing, serving more than just honorably, serving really with distinction. There's no harm to the military. That's just a bunch of nonsense. So that's a big part of the disgrace, is doing these dirty deeds in the shadows. No sunlight being shown on it. They need to be forced to do these things in the sunlight. As the Slate piece points out, common decency, they could have at least given reasons for what this was. And so you take a look at this one-page order, we'll put it up, it tells you nothing. Nothing. It's a shadow docket, but the effect is enormous and casts a great shadow. So that's it for now. I want to give you a little hint of something big coming up. We're going to be premiering my personal Substack soon, and really anxious for you all to see it. And I'm particularly anxious for you to give me some feedback to tell me what you want in this Substack. There's so many different kinds. There's writing, there's videos, there's shows. We'll be doing a little bit of all of that. I'm really interested in getting to interact with you, finding a way to give you the opportunity to ask me questions directly in some format. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Let me know. Talk to you soon.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.